Dear America, I'm sorry that man is your president. Things aren't looking great. A lot of people want to see, they want to hear some information about what's going on, but they also don't want pre-prepared speeches, and they also want to know that the information is coming from the right places. So I wanted to just take some time to be honest about what's going on, and not have, even though some of that was a little prepared, but just to be open about what's going on, about what I think we can do. And even though things seem really bad, I do think that there's hope. I want to cut straight to the point, bottom line, right up front. I don't think that that getting elected, passing legislation or attempting to pass legislation within the House or the Senate on a federal level is the way forward. At the state levels, obviously there's a lot going on, but I think at the federal level there's being some undermining being done with the election process, with the president weaponizing agencies and other entities, and anything that's targeting anything that's critical of him, media outlets that are critical of him, organizations that are critical of even the administration or its work, or even of Elon Musk and other things. That being said, I don't know that the Senate and the House are going to be effective, just no matter how many seats are won, specifically because they have no method of enforcement. But I'll get to that later. First, I wanted to just talk to everybody and say, as of April 6th, 2025, what's going on. And let me give you some information on Trump's tariffs and the economic impact. On April 2nd, 2025, President Trump implemented extensive tariffs on global imports, branding the day as Liberation Day, sparking a global trade war, with some tariffs exceeding 25% and the aim to reduce the U.S. trade deficit, but instead it's led to significant economic turmoil, including $3 trillion in loss in the U.S. stock market and global markets with heightened risk of recession. Economists and international allies have criticized the approach for its potential to disrupt global supply chains, inflation prices, and warn it could exacerbate economic instability rather than usher in the promised golden age. Are we great yet? Now, China's response to the U.S. tariffs. In retaliation to the U.S. tariffs, China increased its tariffs on U.S. imports and is seeking new trade alliances to mitigate the impact. However, efforts to establish partnerships with countries like India have been met with caution, leaving China to potentially rely on domestic strategies to counteract export losses. So China is retaliating with counter tariffs and trade measures in response to these tariffs. And they imposed additional tariffs on American goods, restricting rare earth exports and blacklisting certain U.S. firms. This escalation has intensified tensions between the two largest economies, with limited avenues for de-escalation. TikTok is being used as a bargaining chip in these trade negotiations. President Trump indicated he might reduce tariffs on China to facilitate the sale of TikTok's U.S. operations to an American company, highlighting the app's role in broader trade discussions. TikTok's sale was halted amid U.S.-China trade tensions, as China objected to the proposed terms, citing recent U.S. tariff actions specifically. The Chinese government's stance has complicated efforts to resolve national security concerns around the app, of which I think we should be having more discussions on. Exactly what is the nature of data, how much we're giving away willingly, and how much we have to sort of police ourselves on these platforms. Should TikTok go away? This is a good way to, I think, transition to this piece of information. Should TikTok go away, we need to find alternative means of spreading information. And also, although some people say that the subscribers and followers are not organic, or they're specifically limited to one platform. We may need to start, going over to YouTube or to Instagram and to Facebook and to, LinkedIn and to Snapchat and to any and every other sort of method where these videos can be saved and shared, and sort of follow each other on there. So I'll put links and information towards my other accounts. I have to make a Blue Sky account, but in addition to that, so it's something to be mindful of that we need to do to prepare for the future. And potentially people who make their money off of TikTok, we need to support each other and find methods of ways of supporting each other and supporting these businesses that are going to be hit, and supporting each other in our communities. And I want to talk about some of that later. So I think in some ways we have to go back to a lot of things, because if the media is going to be controlled, then we need to find alternative methods of communicating with each other. And sometimes I think we need to go back sometimes. But that being said, we need to build coalitions, and we'll get there. Now, today, April 5th was an incredible day for protests nationwide. Some people abstained, and understandably so, and thankfully I heard nothing but peaceful protests. And there's although this is good, I want to point out that the protests are indicative of people, doing the work. There wouldn't be this many protests if those in Congress were doing their jobs. That's the point, is that the American people seem to be doing all the heavy lifting here. And that needs to change. These politicians they're looking at this as another day at the office, another day for their careers and for that's all this is. And it's affecting the American people, greatly. Like we are heading into uncharted territory. So that being said, nationwide hands-off protests on April 5th, 2025, over 500,000 people across all 50 states participated in hands-off protests against President Trump and Elon Musk. Demonstrators opposed recent federal program cuts and policies perceived as threats to various communities, including immigrants and transgender individuals. So also, President Trump has made remarks about potentially running for an unconstitutional third term. He's publicly entertained the idea of serving a third term, stating, "I'm not joking," about exploring ways to remain in office beyond the constitutionally mandated 2 terms. This has raised concerns about adherence to democratic norms. Again, I think that Democrats and many voters are not aware that if he's talking about this early, these are authoritarian moves. This is scary territory, and we need to be prepared for that. I don't believe anyone in Congress is prepared to fight against Donald Trump, and they're preparing them for that fight correctly. I'll be making my case soon enough. Now, Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders, independent, and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have been leading the Fighting Oligarchy tour. They both embarked on a national tour criticizing both President Trump and the Democratic Party leaders for being out of touch with Americans. The tour has drawn a large crowd and sparked discussions on economic equality. There were rumors that Bernie Sanders was going to be announcing a third party or some sort of organization. And just to cut to the chase, he posted a video that, although some people thought was incredible, and I commend him for continuing the fight, basically the video came down to, the good news is we're selling out arenas, or we're filling up more seats, and we're doing these rallies, but that didn't affect certain areas that needed special elections. We didn't go to places that were really necessary. And then the next thing was basically I can afford more staff, and that we're losing by less than we used to lose before. I don't know if that's the attitude. And then James Carville, the attitude laid down. And then these other people with the attitudes of, picking one issue and making it a big deal. I don't understand why we can't have discussions like these people are killing their careers. I don't understand. But going back to Bernie Sanders, he didn't announce a third party, and I think ultimately that response was weak. It came off as weak, and I think that we're not. That's what the entire Democratic Party is doing, coming off as weak. I mean, Barack Obama showed up out of nowhere, and like, although I respect the man, where have you been all this time? Where's the fight? All of a sudden, it's sort of blaming the voters when a better alternative wasn't given. Cory Booker, I give credit, for breaking the record and speaking. I'd like to discuss some of the more of the details on that. It was incredible, his record-breaking filibuster. He delivered a marathon filibuster speech setting a new record in the Senate. He began speaking at 7 p.m. on March 31st and concluded at 8:05 p.m. on April 1st, 2025. The speech lasted 25 hours and 5 minutes, surpassing the previous longest recorded speech in Senate history, Strom Thurmond's 24-hour and 18-minute long filibuster of the Civil Rights Act of 1957. While remarkable, credit given where it is due, where was this energy 17 days earlier on March 14th? But where are the odds of March, I've said. On March 14th, Senator Chuck Schumer voted with Republicans in a deeply unpopular move. And this is indicative of the disconnect between the Democratic Party and the voters. And that is only indicative of a much larger problem. Now I'll speak to a personal experience. So I'm running for U.S. Senate here in Florida, the entire state of Florida, which I will give you some facts about. The entire state of Florida, total population, approximately 23,372,215 as of July 1st, 2024. Registered voters as of February 28th, 2025, Republican, 5,635,743. Democrat, 4,437,884. Minor parties, 424,809. Non-party affiliated, 3,696,621. And total registered voters, 14,195,057. Now, Josh Wheel, who was running a special election, which could have used help during this oligarchy tour, or Fight the Oligarchy tour, he was running for Florida's 6th congressional district. Total population approximately 796,745 as of 2023. Registered voters, specific data for the party affiliation within the 6th district is not readily available. But, I mean, considering the population size and considering the voting lines, you can see. I mean, it was the data. Actually, let me tell you the actual margins. All right, I'm looking it up. All right, Republican Randy Fine, who won that election despite being deeply unpopular, with 110,764 votes and 56%. Josh Wheel came in with 42.7% at 83,485. Well, I didn't even consider the other guys that weren't even close. So that being said, just to give that little background of that information. So considering the video, I've paid for no advertising. I've done nothing. For my campaign, I've done everything myself. Look, I have no, other than the campaign manager, finance manager, like our team is very small. We are all working in very grassroots and doing everything, doing all the heavy lifting ourselves, to be honest. So that being said, I've been going physically everywhere that I can to protest, to events, to meet with people. I attended an event in the 6th District in Lake County in the evening for Josh Wheel. And when I went to go shake the hand of the person who I assumed to be incorrectly Josh Wheel, it was an attendant or somebody that was a volunteer. And I noticed that I went to 2 separate events and Josh Wheel was at neither of them. and that's, this is a small district, and I'm traveling all around the state. So I sent a direct message on Instagram. I actually sent one, I think, on another platform, but specifically on Instagram, I remember following up on. And I will probably screenshot or send this out later, but I spoke to Josh, and I will actually go ahead and read what I wrote, because it is what it is. And by the way, they saw the message. No one responded to it. So I said on March 13th, I said, Josh, my name is Paul Cruz. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I'm running for Marco Rubio's old seat. I wanted to reach out and let you know that I have been using my platform to talk about how important this special election is and who you are. So I'm letting him know off bat that I'm already done this. I'm already using my newly found platform to help you out without asking, and now offering more assistance, or attempting to. I sent recently a TikTok video I posted in response to the State of the Union, went viral, and is sitting at over 1 million plus views and counting. I'm averaging about 100 followers an hour from that video alone, so I wanted to use that platform effectively to help all of us get elected and to actually shut all of this madness down. I stand with you. Took about 4 hours to get a response. Thank you, Mr. Cruz. I'm actually one of Josh's communications team and our coordinators, but I will bring your message to his attention, or one of his or our campaign managers, plural S. What area of Florida are you currently? Now, I didn't get to him because I've been very, very busy, but following the election, I got back and said, hey, I'm in Lakeland, Polk County. Please have Josh reach out. The fight is not over yet, right? The response I get back, this one very quickly, honestly, we're letting him get some badly needed rest and family time. He's really earned it. But I suspect that it's just a matter of time before you see him out there again. Wink face emoji. The whole team is itching to keep working on what we've started here. And we may see some location change. We may see some people change. But what won't change is that Josh is definitely needed still. I couldn't tell if that was AI or it was upsetting to me. So my response, I responded, no offense, but that attitude is precisely why victory was not achieved. I didn't reach out to ask help from Josh with my campaign, of which I don't have any comms team or campaign managers, plural. I have been personally attending any and every event I can, no reps. I went to 2 different events in Lake County in the evening, and a representative was present instead of Josh. I was reaching out to tell him how I had already been using my platform to help, and to see how I could help even further. These are not normal times. These are unprecedented circumstances. And what's at stake is more than just some seats or an election. I served in the U.S. Army for 17 years, deployed to Kosovo and Iraq. 365 days, 12-hour shifts, no days off, under the most extreme weather, and constant threat of enemy direct and indirect fire, even when you sleep. I have 3 sons, and all of our children's futures are at stake. The American people need leaders who won't rest until the job is done. Seen Thursday. No response. So, I've been told that I've kept it, I keep it too real, but it is what it is, man. I don't hold back. Going further with the information, I want to continue on this. I've already touched on the special elections, and I wanted to give a good shout out to a lot of the people who are using their platform for good. A lot of the people that are like getting the message out to a lot of folks, and I don't want to mention anybody by name for clout, but influencers and people who are out there doing what they need to do, and people who are doing the right thing instead of doing what they need to for clicks. We appreciate that. I do, and when my platform gets larger, I'll be sure to make sure that I shout the right people out and make sure the independent media is taken care of. Following the announcement of the Liberation Day tariffs and subsequent Chinese retaliation, the stock market suffered a significant decline. The Dow Jones Industrial Average tumbled 2,200 points, marking one of the worst weeks since 2020. Go figure. President Trump also skipped a dignified transfer of remains for fallen soldiers. The president faced criticism for missing the dignified transfer ceremony of 4 U.S. soldiers who died in a training exercise in Lithuania. Instead, he attended a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago and engaged in golf activities hosted by foreign governments. There's been a massive increase in deportations under the Trump administration. Since President Trump's inauguration on January 20th, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Customs and Border Protection have arrested approximately 113,000 individuals and carried out over 100,000 deportations, reflecting the administration's commitment to stringent immigration policies and brutality. Nationwide, there was a hands-off protest, as I mentioned earlier. Thousands of demonstrators across all 50 states participated in a hands-off protest, expressing opposition to Trump's policies and the influence of specifically advisor Elon Musk. The protests highlighted concerns over civil rights, immigration policies, and economic decisions. Now, in addition to that conversation, there's been some debate over the death penalty for undocumented immigrants. President Trump issued an executive order urging the Justice Department. Now, there's been some debate over the death penalty for undocumented immigrants. The president issued an executive order urging the Justice Department to pursue the death penalty in capital cases involving undocumented suspects, particularly those accused of murdering law enforcement officers. This directive has sparked legal debates and concerns from civil rights organizations. I've been on my own since I was 18. I never really fit in anywhere, even in the Army. My faith's in people, I guess. Individuals. And I'm happy to say that, for the most part, they haven't let me down. Which is why I can't let them down either. Locks can be replaced. But maybe they shouldn't. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. Fighting for what you believe in. And that's all any of us can do. That's all any of us should do. Thank you.